Hey guys, Darren Asbury here with Revital Outdoors, bringing you another exciting podcast. Tonight we have Mr. Brad Weiss from the Choo Choo division going to join us. Brad got a top 10 finish last year at Wheeler Lake, so we're very excited to talk to him about Wheeler Lake. He's one of our first anglers that we've contacted about Wheeler, so that tournament's coming up again this year, very, very soon. Again, Brad got a top 10 last year. He's going to give us some insight about what he did and what he predicts for this year, so very exciting podcast coming your way. Before we get started, as always, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you get notified when all of our content is dropping. Check us out on Instagram and Facebook. That's going to be Revital Outdoors. And if you've never heard of Revital Outdoors, we're a premium CBD company. We make premium CBD products for all the outdoor enthusiasts out there. And then you can purchase those directly off our website. So just check us out, www.revitaloutdoors.com. All of our products are THC-free, made right here in America. So really great stuff. And then also, before we get started, I want to say that we are en route to go to Red Crest this week in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We will be at the Outdoor Sports Expo that will be going on adjacent with the Red Crest event. So please come out to Tulsa, Oklahoma. Check out the expo. We're booth 2214. We're going to have a lot of great things happening there. We're going to be doing a show special. We've got our pro staff coming in to meet everybody. We're doing a $500 giveaway. So be following us on social media. More announcements coming throughout the week and getting ready for Red Crest. But that being said, that's the housekeeping stuff. Let's go ahead and bring him in. Mr. Brad Weiss. How you doing this evening, bud?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, man.
You bet. Honored to have you on. Thank you for agreeing to come on. So let's just get right into it. Last year, top 10 finish, Choo Choo division on Wheeler Lake. So tell us a little bit about Wheeler and what you like about it.
Yeah, man, that tournament last year was kind of crazy. It was April 24th, so it's a couple weeks after the tournament that we're having this year. I believe this one's April 9th. We had a huge front come in that night before the tournament, and that morning it was one of those kind of iffy, whether we were going to even get out first thing that morning. I believe the winds were out of the east, so it was, man, that morning there was straight line winds, gust, I would say 30 to 40 miles per hour.
Wow.
And I was actually fishing like right out in the middle of the lake, probably the worst place I could have been at. And had actually a pretty good practice. I'd found some smallmouth on like gravel areas. I think they were spawning, and some were kind of like post spawn. Just the way they were biting was a little bit odd.
Mm-hmm.
But I really just, that area, I really couldn't fish it that well. So, I kind of just scrapped and clawed all day. I mean, I ran almost to Tennessee in the Elk River. Made probably like a 30-minute run up there because I had caught a big one on a frog in practice. Went up there, caught one keeper, left there. The winds had died down some, got in a community hole area, caught one. Told my co-angler, I was like, man, it's still a little bit sketchy out. We might want to give us a few minutes extra to get back to the ramp. Got headed back, realized the wind had laid down some and kind of shifted, pulled up on a spot, caught a 4-pound smallmouth, literally my last cast, threw it in. Never happens to me, but, threw it in the live well, made it back in a couple of minutes early. And so, yeah, it was just kind of one of those days, I was fortunate to get a top 10, kind of scraped and clawed, to get that. And, really just being honest, I got lucky to get that because we put in at First Creek. It's right there by Wheeler Dam. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of guys locked through. This was one of the big stories of that tournament. A lot of guys locked through down to Wilson Lake. That tail race really famous for having, 20 to 30-pound bags, largemouth and smallmouth. So I think there was about 20 guys that went down there, to fish that. And my travel partner last year, Evan Horn, he actually went down there too. And with those locks, it's a big risk. You give a lot of time up doing that, but you also give a lot, take the chance of not being able to get back through, whether there's, barge traffic, any issues with the lock. And, that day there had some, I think it was barge traffic. Guys couldn't get back through. And the guys in the first, I think there was probably 7 or 8 flights. The guys in the first 4 flights either, weighed in with a penalty or just didn't make it back in. The guys in the later flights got to weigh. So, I know there were some guys in the lock. From what I heard, several guys had 14 to 18 pounds, didn't get to weigh those fish. So I probably should have been more 15th to 20th, but hey, that's, how it goes sometimes. I was blessed to be able to walk away with a top 10.
Absolutely. Yeah, the locks is definitely something you have to think about. You think about Wilson, Wheeler, Pickwick, all those lakes right in there. Everyone talks about walking through, but that's the trouble with it. And to me, if you look at the history of lakes that have locks, we're talking about Dardanelle in Arkansas as well. um, Muskogee Lake there in Oklahoma, and the Muskogee, the navigational channel, all famous for having locks. And I think that Wheeler, Wilson, Pickwick area kind of has notoriously the most problems with, holding anglers up and things happening on the
Hmm.
weekend. So that's just one of the risks that you take, but it
For
is what
sure.
it is. So it's something that, I probably would not do because just the risk behind it. You hear too many horror stories behind that. So, well, yeah, thinking about your day on the water, again, top 10 finish. Kind of break it down. What was Wheeler doing? Was it pre-spawn? Were you after spawners? Like, what was the overall just gist of what you were doing throughout the day?
Well, one big difference between that tournament last year and what I think we're going to go into in this tournament is April 15th is supposed to be when the lake is at full pool. I fished Wheeler since I was 5 years old, and just April 15th is just a rough date. I mean, it could be at full pool 5 days before that. It could be 10 days after that.
Right.
That tournament there, it seems like it was really close to full pool. And like I was saying, I believe I was around some fish that were even post spawn just by looking at them and the way they were biting. It was just really just kind of a slow, just let your bait soak type thing. And which, I was talking about those winds. That the way I was fishing, it wasn't you could slow down with like a spinning rod and really finesse fish. But yeah, last year there was definitely a lot of fish, I believe, spawning. I see it seems like there was like a 9+ weight in that tournament. And I want to say the guy that caught that fish caught it on top water and might have seen it before he, it blew up on it. So there was, a lot of fish up shallow. I heard guys catching them on swim jigs, up close to like spawning areas, bluff ends, gravel areas where smallmouth might be spawning, stuff like that. But now this year, with it being April 9th, I might be completely wrong. We might get a big rain, it might flood. But if the conditions are pretty stable with weather and everything, I think water is probably going to be, 8 inches to 18 inches below full pool. Sometimes for me, that's kind of a tricky, water height because those fish are going to be dying to go up. Water
Hmm.
temp right now out there is 58, 59. We had a pretty day today. I wouldn't doubt it if it hit 60. So those fish are going to be dying to move up, but that lake fluctuates so much. Those fish really don't seem to get way back up in areas. It's kind of like Pickwick until the water gets all the way up. I think a lot of fish will be, on your stage and stuff, noses up there waiting to go up, but kind of out in front of the spawning areas. Current breaks in front of those spawning areas, just really kind of feeding up still. But like I said, water could be up all the way. They might really be just, they'll flood the banks that time of year. If the water comes up, that's where they're going to be at, no doubt.
Okay. Okay. So in terms of, well, let's break down Wheeler a little bit more. Is there a dirty or a clean water situation?
Right now out there, it's a little bit stained, just because that's a lot of another problem with lakes that fluctuate a lot. You get a lot of rain, it dirties up, comes way up, fish come up with it, and a week later it's clear and it's sucked back down.
Right.
Um, right, it usually stays pretty clear. As long as the weather's pretty stable and everything, it relatively clear. If you get up in the creeks and stuff, you can find stained water if you want to. You can find super clear water way upriver if you want to. So yeah, a little bit of both, definitely.
Okay. Okay. And then in terms of bait selection, I mean, kind of sounds like you're more of a, run and gun kind of guy. You're power fishing, got a lot of reaction baits in your hand. Is that kind of what you're thinking again this year?
Yeah, the water's down a little bit, yeah, for sure. There's gonna, swim baits around, gravel bluff ends. I think bluffs will definitely play a big factor. As much as the water's been kind of going up and down here recently and this spring so far, bluffs are just kind of, that vertical, cover like that. The water coming up and down doesn't really impact it as much. So I think a lot of guys are going to be fishing bluffs, could be fish around uh, gravel areas, around bluffs. That's definitely going to be a thing that people are going to be going after. But, the closer it gets to the spawn, that's when I kind of shift more towards the slow finesse stuff. Is it can be boring to do at times. A lot of guys probably be catching fish on shaky heads, dragging stuff, long wacky rigs, jigs, closer it gets to spawn, that stuff's definitely going to start shining.
Right, right. So, okay. Well, and then that kind of leads me into what do you think a co-angler is going to be successful doing? You talk about the shaky head, so that kind of tells me there's going to be a lot of shaky head jig fish caught on the co-angler side.
Yeah, definitely. I've actually got a few baits laid out here that I would, if I was going as a co-angler, this would be something I would kind of think about for it. One of the generic answers for Tennessee River, pre-spawn is going to be a vibrating jig.
Right,
Everybody, the jackhammers, reds, anything like that. But, for Wheeler, whether you're up, kind of in spawning areas around shallow cover or even bluffs or current breaks, people don't need to overlook a little spinner bait. If you get up in the shallow areas, this is just like a little war eagle spinner bait, kind of a quarter ounce size.
hmm
But if you get out in the deeper stuff, maybe a half to a 1 ounce spinner bait. And I know I'm kind of being, broad with, everything, but there's a lot that could be going on. We could get a flood that week. It could be nasty, windy, rainy, and be a big spinner bait kind of day.
right.
People definitely don't need to overlook that, besides just the chatterbait, which is also another great choice. Um, Second would be just, something, just a little swim bait. This is a 1/2 ounce head, a Scottsboro tackle. Um, that's just something, good to be, for a co-angler to, I know they're kind of compact in their area to fish around, just, to pitch around any kind of the current breaks, any kind of bluffs. The tournament's launching out of Decatur. There's a lot of industrial stuff there, bridges. That's just a great bait, especially for smallmouth too, which is going to play a factor in this tournament. When we just talked about it, shaky head, just a, something around this time of year, especially for a co-angler, just a bite getter.
Right.
And actually, one more bait too that I'll definitely be using a lot for this tournament, whether water's up or down. You're on bluffs, up in creeks, boat docks, whatever. It's just a little compact jig. A 3/8 or a 1/2 ounce jig.
All right.
Um, Nothing profound or anything, but just gets it done this time of year from March to the end of April. You can't go wrong with having a jig tied on.
Right, right. So, one last question before we let you go, Brad. What do you think weight wise is going to take this year to take home the victory and then maybe to cash a check?
Weights. I'll be honest, man. Weights have been really, really good here lately on Wheeler. I actually was at Gunnersville last weekend, and it took 18 to win a tournament there. And I got off the water, talked to a few buddies. There was a tournament out of Elk River, which is one of the big river branches off of
hmm
Wheeler. It took 23 to win it, and the guy that I know got second in it with 20 pounds, and he had all smallmouth. I don't know what that 23 pounds was, but that part of the lake probably was all smallmouth. But yesterday, there was a bunch of guys that I know. They fished a wildcat on out of Ingles where we're launching from, and it took 23 to win it, 22 second, and I think there was 7 bags over 18. It was all largemouth. So
Okay.
the lake's fishing phenomenal right now. I mean, weights out there have been better than most other places around here, including Gunnersville and Pickwick. So I think that weights are going to be pretty stout for that tournament. I would say for the boater side, you know, it's gonna take over 20. I definitely think that. I don't know if it'll be 23 like what we saw last weekend because it's still pretty heavy pre-spawn. If it's getting closer to the spawn, slowing down a little bit, it might go down some. Co-angler side, 15, 16, something like that, maybe. Depending if you can get a big bite or not. So I definitely expect weights to be, pretty good for this tournament.
Okay. Okay. So, well, Brad, you gave us a lot of great information about Wheeler Lake. Before we let you go, you've got a great success with Major League Fishing. You fish a lot of tournaments there around where you live. Real quick before we let you go, we just want to give you the opportunity to give any shout outs to your friends, family, sponsors, anybody that supports your tournament fishing. We want to give you that opportunity.
Yeah, man, I get a lot of support from, friends, my wife, my job, everything really allows me to get, time on the water, and there's no substitution for time on the water. I think that that's key for a lot of, success in tournaments around here. Other than that, I'd give a shout out to Dry Creek Marine in Decatur, Alabama. I run a Falcon F20 Predator. I bought it from there. I didn't even really know much about Falcons. A lot of guys around here run Phoenix, Skeeter, the big name boats, Bass Cat. And they're actually one of two Falcon dealerships in Alabama. And as soon as the first ride in one, I was like, that's it. That's what I'm getting. So they hooked me up there, and they just, it's like family up there now. They treat me good. If anybody in North Alabama is shopping, for a new boat or even a place just to have, servicing done, check them out. Those guys, I mean, if you want a good close personal relationship with people, just good people that'll treat you right, that's definitely the place to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, well, Brad, thank you again for coming on to our podcast. Good luck to you at Wheeler Lake and throughout the rest of the year on fishing the Choo Choo division. I believe this is your second tournament with the Choo Choo division this year.
Yeah. Third actually.
Oh,
Yep,
third.
third.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
So, well, good luck to you this year. Hope to have you back onto our podcast. That usually means you're having a good campaign for 2022. And
Yeah, I hope
for all the
so.
Absolutely. For all the anglers fishing the Choo Choo division and all the other BFL divisions this year, good luck to you. Be safe out there, guys. Be sure before we let you go to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Again, you've been talking to Mr. Brad Weiss, top 10 angler from the Choo Choo Division BFL event on Wheeler Lake from 2021. So good luck to you, Brad, again. And as always, thank you for tuning into this podcast. Be sure you check us out on Facebook and Instagram. Be safe out there, guys. God bless. We'll talk to everyone very, very soon.